You've probably always heard great things about this country. It's a wealthy country that colonized many others, including Brazil. Easy to emigrate to, beautiful, and considered by many as the best option to leave their country and live abroad. But today, I want to show you that it's not exactly like that. In this video, you will discover a lesser-known side of Portugal, which is not the paradise you might imagine. I'll also talk to you about the biggest difficulties foreigners face when arriving in Portugal. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel and join me in this video. Cost of living. To start, I need to tell you that yes, Portugal is a country with a wonderful culture, incredible landscapes, and many positive aspects. However, it is also a highly idealized and idolized country by many foreigners who unfortunately live in more humble situations. Therefore, it's understandable that they think any place a little better than their own country is amazing. But the truth is, compared side by side with other European countries, Portugal has many problems that can complicate your life. The first reason is the cost of living and wages. Imagine leaving your country and moving to Portugal because you've always dreamed of living in Europe, in a country much better than yours. Maybe you don't have an excellent academic background or much work experience, but you think you can get by with informal jobs for a while, which surely pay better, right? When you arrive in the country and find accommodation, which was already quite expensive, you think, it doesn't matter because I'll earn well. Then you go out looking for those well-paid jobs they promised you, and that's when reality knocks on your door. You realize that the informal jobs you thought would pay well are actually a trap disguised as an opportunity. Wages in Portugal are very low, and when I say low, they really are, especially compared to other European countries. That expectation of working hard, paying rent, doing the monthly shopping, and having a more dignified life can become a major frustration in Portugal. The cost of living in major cities like Lisbon and Porto has risen uncontrollably in recent years. Finding housing has almost become a nightmare unless you're willing to share a small apartment with 4 or 5 other people. If you decide to rent on your own, the rent will take up a large part of your salary, which is already low. And it's not just housing that weighs on your pocket. Feeding yourself and hiring basic services will also constantly remind you that although the euro is more expensive than the real, living in Portugal is not as advantageous as it seems on the internet. Even buying a simple basket of basic groceries at the supermarket can feel like a luxury. What's the real issue? The numbers just don't add up. Many foreigners arrive with the dream of earning in euros and living with dignity, but soon discover that earning in euros doesn't mean as much when expenses keep rising. These difficulties make Portugal much more complicated than it seemed at first. Job market. When you arrive in Portugal, you have that hope of finding opportunities around every corner, with doors open for your effort, and that everything you do will be rewarded. However, the reality is that the job market in the country is not as generous as many believe, despite the romantic idea that it's easy to find a job, especially for those coming from abroad. The truth is that vacancies are quite limited in many areas, and if we're talking about more qualified jobs, the situation worsens. The high competition makes the process of getting a good job almost impossible. Even if you have a good education, you will compete with European professionals or other immigrants who have already been in the country longer and are better established. This can become a major obstacle. Moreover, in many industries, working conditions can be quite precarious: long working hours, temporary contracts, and instability that generates constant concern. If you're hoping to find the security of a stable job, it might be time to rethink your expectations. Portugal offers opportunities, but they don't always come with stability, ease, and good working conditions. Bureaucracy. Another reason why Portugal might not be the ideal destination is the bureaucracy. Although it may seem that being a small country, things get resolved quickly, the reality is very different. When you arrive full of enthusiasm to start a new life, the first barrier will be the paperwork. Obtaining the necessary documentation to stay in the country can be much more complicated than you imagine. It's not just about filling out an online form, and that's it. Prepare yourself to face a maze of documents, endless queues, and systems that seem stuck in time. For example, in some places, you can spend hours waiting to be attended to, and it's not uncommon to have to schedule appointments at public offices months in advance. A typical example of these difficulties is opening a bank account. Something that seems simple can turn into a slow process filled with requirements, such as proof of residence or specific documents that you didn't even know you needed. Healthcare system. This is another point that many people don't mention: the healthcare system in Portugal. It's true that the country has a public healthcare system, the National Health Service, SNS, which offers universal care. However, the reality can be much more complicated. If you come from abroad and are familiar with the SUS, you might be surprised to discover the limitations of the Portuguese system. Waiting times in the SNS can be absurdly long, especially for specialized consultations or non-urgent procedures. There are even forums on the internet dedicated exclusively to complaints about SNS delays. It's not uncommon to hear stories of people who have waited months for a consultation with a specialist or to undergo more complex exams. If you live in a region far from the big cities, the situation can be even worse. What alternative do many choose? The private healthcare system. But here is an important detail. Private healthcare in Portugal and in Europe in general is very expensive. While you might avoid long waits, the costs can be too high. For those who are used to the idea of an efficient public system or come with the expectation that everything works better in Europe, the reality of the SNS in Portugal can be quite shocking. Adaptation. Finally, there's the issue of adaptation. This may seem like a minor detail for someone who just wants to move to another country and thinks it won't affect them. But in practice, it is one of the most common challenges in complaints from those who move. In Portugal, the pace of life is much more relaxed, especially if you compare it to the hustle and bustle of big cities. This may sound appealing at first, but over time, you might notice that this leisurely pace also affects processes, adding to the bureaucracy we've already mentioned. Another important point is the feeling of not belonging. Although the Portuguese are generally polite and kind, there is a cultural barrier that can make integration difficult. It may seem like it's just a matter of time, but many foreigners find that integrating into Portuguese social circles, especially outside the work environment, is not so simple. There is a style of communication, behavior, and relationship that is very different from ours. This can become an obstacle at the beginning, so it's important to be prepared to deal with these differences. Portugal is undoubtedly an incredible country with many good things, but it's essential to be aware of the challenges you might face, especially if you arrive unprepared. Take the time to thoroughly research the country and understand how things work before taking this big step. This was today's video. I hope you liked it and that it made you reflect. This content is based on stories and experiences that are often not shared, but are important for you to make an informed decision. If you want to know more about this topic, not only about Portugal, but also about other countries, click on the video that appears on your screen. Thank you very much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.